Hi everyone, welcome back to Dear Lydia. Today I wanted to talk to you about my 19 and pregnant story. I was going to talk about how I found out I was pregnant at 19, how I told my friends and family, and also talk you through my pregnancy, any symptoms that I had, etc. So let's get started. So I found out I was pregnant on the 8th of November 2016. That was when I was about 19 and a half years old. So some of the signs were showing of pregnancy, such as I missed my period, I had crazy mood swings, I felt extremely tired all the time. I would come home from work, fall asleep, I'd be watching TV and I'd feel myself dozing off, just extremely tired. So I knew that something wasn't quite right. And then I didn't really think much of it because I'm sometimes late on my period, so I left it a few more days. And I started feeling really nauseous. I would be out in public and I'd get a smell of something and it would make me feel instantly sick. So I knew that there was something a little bit off because I would never usually have any symptoms like that. So I went and spoke to my partner and said to him, I can't remember the last time I had my period. I'm having all these crazy symptoms. I think I would be on the safe side if I took a pregnancy test just to clear our minds. So he agreed to do that. So he offered to go and buy a pregnancy test and I would go over to his parents' house and we would do it together to find out if it was positive or negative, sorry. So that was on the 8th of November. So I went over to his parents' house later that day after I'd finished work and we went upstairs and I said to him I would go and take the pregnancy test if he just waited outside in his bedroom, and I'll come back through and we can look at the results together. So I went to take the pregnancy test and it was one of the clear blue digital tests that say pregnant or not pregnant and the amount of weeks. So the options are 1 to 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, or 3+. So once I'd taken the pregnancy test, I went back through to the bedroom where my partner was and I placed the pregnancy test down on the bedside unit because I was so nervous, I didn't want to look at it. And my partner instantly wanted to watch it for the result to come up. So that was fine by me. I just waited at the bottom of the bed wondering if I was just being silly or if I was actually pregnant. And usually this test can take up to 3 minutes to show a positive or negative result. However, after maybe 45 seconds, 50 seconds, my partner just gasped and I said to him, what's the matter? He replied to me that the pregnancy test had showed up positive and it said 3+ weeks. So me being me thinking, it's not been 3 minutes yet, this guy's playing a prank on me, I told him off and he said, no, genuinely the test is positive, please come and have a look. So I went to go and have a look at the test and sure enough it said pregnant 3+. So that was a massive shock. Like, I knew that there was a possibility I could be pregnant and I've shown all the symptoms, but I just didn't think it could happen to me. Just a silly thing, I know it can happen to anyone, but that was just the way I was feeling about it. So I'll talk to you about the emotions I felt when I found out I was pregnant. So the first initial thing that came to me was shock. I couldn't believe it. I was only 19. It's not what I had planned for my future. So I was really concerned about it. And the next thing that came straight to me was I was so terrified to tell my family and also to tell my friends, just for what they would say, how they would react, and just what people would think of me for becoming pregnant at such a young age. At the time I had a really good job and I would enjoy going out with my friends, go to my dancing, so I knew that life would be changing quite a bit when I was expecting a new arrival. Me and my partner did discuss our options, and for me personally, I had no other option but to keep my child. A lot of people do go for an abortion or for an adoption, and I think that's wonderful. If that's what suits your family, then go for it. But personally for me, it was just a no-brainer, and I don't have anything bad to say about people who do get rid of their child through abortion or put their child up for adoption. It means that that child is going to a loving home, someone maybe that can't have children, and it's just a great blessing. So big respect to people who do put their children up for adoption. Anyway, my partner and I discussed how we were feeling, what we were going to do next. And the first thing that came to me was, I need to tell my parents. The sooner I tell them, the more chance they'll get to be used to it and be able to support me through my journey. And we agreed that that was the next step that we wanted to take. At the time, I was living with my parents and my partner was living with his parents. So I left his house after taking that test, and we had our conversation about what our next steps were. And I drove home to my house. On the way, I stopped and got another pregnancy test, the ones that come up with the lines for positive or negative, and also another digital test. Just because I was in so much shock, I wanted to double check whether I was actually pregnant before telling friends and family big news like that. So when I got home back to my mum's, I said hello to them, and I went into the bathroom to take the second 2 tests. Instantly, the test with the lines came up positive, and after the time, the digital test came up pregnant, 3+ again. So that was definitely confirming that there was a pregnancy there. And I thought to myself, I can't keep this in any longer. I need to tell my parents. I need support because I'm so young. I have no idea what's coming ahead of me, and I really just want them to understand how I'm feeling, what I'm going through, and I wanted to see what their reaction was. So immediately when I came out of the bathroom, I put the pregnancy tests in my pocket so that nobody could see them. It was only my mum that was sitting in the living room. She was reading her book, and my dad was out walking the dog at the time. So I thought that was the golden opportunity to sit down and tell my mum exactly what was going on. And instantly, as soon as I walked into the living room, she knew that there was something up by the look on my face. I was shaking, and she sat down next to me and asked me what was wrong, and I couldn't keep it in anymore. I just blurted out, "I'm sorry, Mum, I'm pregnant." And I felt the need to apologise because I didn't want to disappoint my family. It's the last thing that I want, you know. You want your parents to be proud of you, and I was really upset thinking how disappointed they might be in me. So my mum was instantly in shock. She couldn't believe it at the start, and I could tell by the look on her face that she was quite disappointed, and that's not what she wanted for my future. She was concerned for my future. We did have a deep discussion about how concerned she was. How would I support a baby at such a young age when I'm living at home? I was just getting into a nice career that I enjoyed, and now I'm pregnant. So we had a heart-to-heart, and I was very emotional. I was in tears. My mum was in tears. And then my dad finally came home from walking the dog, so it was time to tell him that I was pregnant. So instantly he knew that there was something up because me and my mum were both in tears, and he said to us, "What is going on? Have you had an argument?" And my mum said to me, "You need to tell him." So I said to my dad, "Can you come and sit down, please? I've got something really important that I need to tell you." So my dad came and sat down, really worried, not knowing what was going on. And I had to say to him, "Dad, I'm really sorry and I don't want to disappoint you, but I've just found out that I'm pregnant." And my dad's instant reaction was he broke down in tears, and that's the first time I've seen my dad emotional like that, and it broke my heart. I really felt bad and horrible, and I knew that I was disappointing everyone, and it's not that what they wanted for me at all. So once my dad had calmed down and he had a chance to process what I had just told him, he was very supportive, as was my mum. it did take them a while to get used to the idea that their child was going to be a mother, but that's what most parents would go through, no matter what your age is or where you are in life. So that was that. So I'll just go and tell you a little bit about my pregnancy. I've got it written down here, so if I keep looking up and down, it's just because I'm looking at my notes. So when I found out I was pregnant, the first thing that I did was I contacted my local GP and asked to be in touch with a midwife, because I didn't know how far along I was. Although the test said 3+ weeks, I know it's not always accurate. So that was fine. I got my appointment booked with a midwife for a few weeks after that. So I was roughly supposed to be about 10 to 12 weeks. In the meantime, I started spotting. I had some bleeding and really crampy feelings in my stomach. So I knew that there was something really wrong, and I went to the early pregnancy unit in the hospital, which was about half an hour drive from where I live. So I went there with my mum because I needed somebody to support me. My partner was at work and my dad was busy. So I went straight there with my mum. And the first thing they did was a vaginal ultrasound, which they insert a probe into your vagina and they look for pregnancy, confirm pregnancy, and see if baby's all right. Especially because they didn't know how far along I was, they thought doing a vaginal ultrasound would be the best way to go. So we had that, and I wasn't allowed to see anything on the screen just in case there was anything wrong, because it was so early on in the pregnancy. And they dated the pregnancy roughly at 6 weeks and 5 days. So I was very early on in my pregnancy. Once I had the ultrasound, they took some blood tests from me and sent that away to the labs. And they told me that it would take roughly 5 days to confirm if my levels, my hormone levels had increased. So it's the HCG levels. So I had to wait for a phone call for that to see if my levels had increased. So I waited the 5 days and I got a phone call, and sure enough my levels had increased significantly, so I was very happy about that. They wanted to see me back as well at 7 weeks and 4 days for an ultrasound, just to make sure that baby had a heartbeat, because it was so early on the last time I went that they couldn't see a heartbeat. So I went back for my ultrasound 7 weeks and 4 days, and there was a heartbeat flickering away on the screen, and it was incredible to see. And that at that moment, that's when it clicked that I was so excited to be a mum, and it was just the most amazing feeling in the world. If you're a mum already, you'll know that feeling when you first see your child on the ultrasound. It is amazing, and I've got a photograph here. It's a little bit faded because it's been sitting on the windowsill, but this was my scan at 7 weeks and 4 days. After that, I was told that I would have to go back for an appointment at 12 weeks pregnant to see my midwife and to go for another scan, and that would be my 3-month checkup. So that was fine, but in between those appointments I developed really bad morning sickness, and when I say really bad, it was to the point I got hospitalised. I think it was 4 times. I needed fluids, I couldn't keep any food down, I was constantly sick, I had to be signed off work, and I believe it was 28 pounds in weight that I lost in that first trimester. It was horrendous, and I would not wish it on anybody. I was prescribed 2 different tablets for anti-sickness and regularly had to go and get an injection into my bum to try and stop the sickness. So that wasn't very pleasant. And that sickness went on until I was 36 weeks pregnant, so I didn't have much luck there. When I went back for my 12-week appointment, I got some bloods done. They checked my blood pressure, just different things like that to make sure baby was healthy. And I also had a scan. It was meant to be a 12-week appointment, and I ended up going for my scan at 13 weeks and 4 days, as they didn't have any slots for me. But that was okay. Baby was growing fine. They did all the checks that they needed to do, and I was sent on my way home, and it was just another amazing scan, brilliant to see, and it makes you connect more with your child, I think. So after that, I was continuing on with my pregnancy, back at work, trying to cope with the sickness, which wasn't the nicest of things to cope with. And when I got to 16 weeks, me and my partner and my family all decided it would be lovely if we found out the gender of the baby. So I booked a private gender scan, and I went at exactly 16 weeks, and we found out we were having a baby girl. So it was lovely, and I was so excited. Being quite a girly girl myself, I was just over the moon to find out I was having a girl, even though I would have been happy either way. So after that, the standard NHS scheme is that you have another scan at 20 weeks. So I went back at 20 weeks, they did all the checks that they needed to do, bloods drawn, blood pressure checks, etc. And I got to hear baby's heartbeat for the first time, which was lovely, and it's the best sound in the world. I recorded it on my phone, so if I can, I'll insert a clip of it. And after that, I had a lot of reduced movements throughout my pregnancy. Usually after a certain point in your pregnancy, they tell you to try and keep an eye on a pattern of when baby's moving about. So that's what I was doing, and I had significant reduced movements, which we still don't know why that was the case. My placenta was not at the front, so I should have been able to feel kicks and movements all the time. There was a lot of times where I couldn't feel baby moving, and it was quite concerning. So I had an episode of that at 29 weeks and 1 day. So I called up the midwife's unit, and they asked me to come in to put me on a monitor and do an ultrasound to see if they could see baby, if baby was okay and what was going on. At first they said to me, maybe wait an hour before you come in, try and lie on your left hand side drinking something sugary or something cold, which might make baby move about a little bit. So I tried that and still nothing. So really concerned, I went up to the hospital immediately to find out that baby was fine, which was such a relief. So that was all good there. I came home and I was just able to relax and chill out. So in the next coming weeks, I started to get really bad pains in my right hip and down the back of my spine. So the doctor said it was most likely sciatica, and I was signed off work because I could barely walk yet again. So I didn't have a great time at all. I had another scan at 33 weeks and 3 days for another episode of reduced movements. Baby was all healthy and okay when we went to the scan, so that was a relief. I had another scan again at 35 weeks and 4 days, just as the hospital knew I'd had a few episodes of reduced movements, and they wanted to keep a close eye on baby to make sure everything was okay and that baby was getting all the nutrients that she needed. So after that, my friends, they were really supportive about my pregnancy. I forgot to mention, they were excited. They were shocked at the start when I told them I was pregnant. They weren't expecting it, but very supportive and excited. And on the 3rd of June 2017, when I was 34 weeks pregnant, I believe, they held me a baby shower, which was lovely. It was a surprise. All my close friends and family were there, and we had an amazing day. We did baby shower games, had lots of food, weight prediction, etc. for the baby. And it was a really nice day, and I really appreciated that. We've got some lovely photos, so if I can, I'll insert some photographs at the end so you can see. Again, at 37 weeks and 4 days, I had another ultrasound and more bloods drawn. Baby was fine. They were just keeping an eye out on baby as I'd had loads of reduced movements, etc. in my pregnancy, but everything was fine. So I was meant to be due on the 13th of July 2017. However, baby, because she had had reduced movements, etc., they induced me on my due date, and I was in a long time in the hospital for slow labour. They induced me, I believe it was the Thursday night, and baby wasn't born until Monday morning. So I ended up having an emergency cesarean. I wasn't dilating enough, and baby's heart rate was up and down, so it was the safest thing to do. So they took me into theatre, and my little girl was born on the 17th of July 2017 at 1:18 a.m. She was 50.5 centimetres long, and she weighed 7 pounds 10 ounces. She was just perfect. It was a shame that I didn't get my natural delivery that I would like, but as long as baby was here healthy and safe, that's all that mattered to me. So that's my 19 and pregnant story. Just a little disclaimer, I would not recommend getting pregnant on purpose as a teenager. It is really difficult. I was still living at home with my parents. I had just started out a career. Money-wise, it was quite tight and difficult, but it all came together in the end. If you are pregnant, I'm here if you would like to talk to me. I've got an Instagram that you could connect with me on. It's Dear Lydia 2019, and yeah, I'll see you in my next video. Thank you for watching.